Colorado brought in a ton of talent to the wide receiver room, but is there enough room for everyone? I'm going to be talking about all the positions that may see an exodus this spring.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bortwood. Today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I want to thank you guys for making me your first listen of the day. And like I said, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and tune in. We're talking about who could be going out. We're talking about a possible mass exodus from certain positions. There's 3 positions that stand out as having the possibility to lose a lot of players to the portal after spring heading into fall. Now, obviously, transferring in that spring window ahead of the season is a little risky because you never know if you're gonna be able to find the right fit. You never know what kind of opportunity you'll have to play at your next school. But spring ball kind of gives some guys who are on their final year of eligibility or some youngsters at some programs who maybe thought they'd have a big role or just don't like where they're at. It gives them a chance to kind of feel where they're at their program and maybe decide that they want to go elsewhere. So last season, I was looking at Colorado's kind of their transfer portal class as a whole, and I counted 5 players that transferred into Colorado and then ended up leaving. Now, they don't all have to be transfers, and I think freshmen could leave just as much. We've seen guys go to a school for a couple weeks and then be like, you know what, this isn't for me. And so I think Colorado's first position, starting with wide receiver, like I mentioned, realistically, they brought in so much talent that this team, that this unit in particular, is not going to be able to keep everyone happy. If you look at their scholarship distribution or their wide receiver distribution in general, they have Jimmy Horn Jr., Will Shepard, and LeJontay West. Those are seniors. Terrell Timmons is a junior. Omarion Miller is a sophomore. Then they have redshirt freshman Jordan Avanahu, Jacob Page, Cordell Russell, Asad Wasim, and then Cameron McKell and Draylon Miller are true freshmen. That's a lot of bodies in there. Realistically, I think some of these guys that are there for spring practice are going to see the writing on the wall and be like, you know what? Yeah, so I didn't get that many reps, and this room's only going to get more crowded, or I just don't feel like I see myself in this offense. That's going to be a possible position where I think I'll see a couple departures. They already lost Tavares Dawson. He left. He was dismissed from the team, or they parted ways with him, however you want to put it. Last year, they had guys like Jalen Ellis who came in. He's no longer with the program. He's out of eligibility. But there's just so much talent in that room, and it's like not everyone's going to be able to be fed. I did an episode about this, I think, last week, and I said I called it the wide receiver problem because there is so much talent, and realistically, they're going to use Travis Hunter, a combination of Jimmy Horn and LeJontay Wester, Will Shepard, I would imagine. And then it's like, say those are the starting 3 and 4, kind of 3B guy. They're not going to be trotting out 10 receivers every week. Like there's going to be 4 to 5 receivers that are left out. So someone who may want a bigger opportunity that could use spring to kind of prove themselves may use this as an opportunity to look elsewhere and take their talents elsewhere. So that's the first position where it's like, I think wide receiver could see some departures. Second position, offensive line. So that was a big story of the offseason for Colorado. Everyone was asking Coach Prime, your offensive line's terrible. This is last year, obviously. I think it was after the UCLA game. Your offensive line's terrible. What are you going to do to make sure they're better next season? And he said, I'm going to replace them. I'm going to bring in as many new guys as possible. And everyone was like, and it's like, guys, we knew he was going to have to say that. It was kind of crazy to me that everyone was talking about how terrible his offensive line was. And then the moment he was like, I got to replace them, everyone was like, I clutched my pearls, like relax, like everything's going to be fine. We knew that offensive line was not going to last. I think we knew probably by week 2, just in case week 1 wasn't a good enough example, that offensive line was terrible. And they only got worse throughout the season. So he brings in 5 new offensive linemen, and there's a lot of seniors on this group. So a lot of these guys probably maybe don't want to, if they see where they are kind of in the pecking order, they may not want to stick around and see what happens throughout the year, because obviously everyone wants to play. and not everyone is going to play. I think offensive lineman wise, there's just sort of spot for 5 to 7 guys, five at the very minimum, but there's probably like 5 to 7, 8 guys. Everyone else probably not going to be playing. So you look at their seniors. They have Tyler Brown, Kareem Harden, Philip Houston, who came in from UConn, Isaiah Jada, Tyler Johnson, who came in from Houston, Justin Maris from UTEP, Khalil Benson from Indiana, Yakiri Walker from UConn. I think I said Philip Houston was from UConn. He's from FIU. Yakiri Walker's from UConn. Savion Washington transferred in last year. David Connor transferred in last year from Florida. Didn't play. He was injured. And then Hank Zelinkus is a sophomore as well with David Connor. Jordan Seaton's a true freshman. So I'm looking at that group of seniors, and I'm like, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys, 6 seniors. Realistically, I would say probably 1, 2, 3. I would say probably 2 of those guys are starting. So 2 out of the 6 seniors are probably not going to be starting. So for some of these guys, they took a risk by coming to Colorado with a loaded portal class, or some of these guys were holdovers from last year. And it's like, they may not enjoy where they're at on the depth chart. Like, Coach Prime brought in a new offense line for a reason. I don't think any spots have been claimed, obviously, until pads are put on. Until pads are popping, you can't claim a spot. But that's going to be a tough room. I think you could kind of read the writing on the wall. Some of these guys could kind of look around and be like, you know what? I thought maybe I could contend for a spot, and I don't think it's going to happen this year. And if you're a senior, you don't really want to spend your final year of eligibility on the bench. And so I think, although they need depth there, I do think that they're going to lose a bit of depth, because there are guys who transferred with the intention of starting and playing this year, and it's not going to happen for everybody. Realistically, it's not. And I think that's the hard part about this whole ordeal, is like, you have to understand that by transferring to a program that's as popular as Colorado is right now, at a position of need like this, you have to understand that there's going to be a lot of competition, and some of these guys may bow out. Third and final position, this is kind of cheating, but I'm going to go with defensive backs as a whole. So corners, the seniors are Amarion Cooper, Preston Hodge, Travis J, Travis Hunter is a junior, Cormani McClain and DJ McKinney are sophomores. And then you have Isaiah Harge and Adam Hopkins, who are redshirt freshmen. Then you go to safety. You have Shiloh Sanders, who he's not going anywhere. Cameron Summan Craig, Herman Smith III, Trevor Woods. Those are all seniors. Miles Slusher and Vito Tisdale are juniors. And then you have Jaden Milner-Jones and Carter Stottmeyer as sophomores and no freshmen. So defensive backs, really, you're playing 4 to 5 at a time, depending on the formation. Obviously, if you go down to like a nickel package, that's where you get the 5th one. But I just look around and I'm like, Coach Prime brought in a ton of corner talent. Are some of these younger guys that may be further down on the depth chart, are they going to look elsewhere? The safety room is pretty loaded. You have a guy like Shiloh Sanders, who's locked down his starting spot, not because he's the coach's son, but because he's really good. And I think he was their most proven tackler last season on defense. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily a good thing, because he's had his fair share of whiffs at times, but Shiloh Sanders is a proven playmaker. So there's already one spot that's claimed. Then you look around and it's like Cameron Summan Craig played a lot of quality snaps last year. He was good. Trevor Woods, he plays a lot of snaps. Does he move back to linebacker? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. But I think the defensive back room could see a little shakeup. I think there's a lot of guys in there. And again, I think realistically, it's kind of tough to be like, I think I could carve out a role for myself. Because again, some of these guys think they are really good and need an opportunity to play. And some of these guys probably just may not be a fit. I look at and this isn't me projecting anyone to transfer, but a guy like Travis J, who comes in as a safety, they play him at corner. Does he foresee a role moving forward with the team? I feel like the corner spots are pretty locked down, and he's out there trying to carve out a role for himself. And there's just guys where it's like, are they going to be able to stick around and carve out a role for themselves as the season goes on, or are they going to eventually fall down the depth chart? And I know a lot of these guys don't want to fall down the depth chart. That's not the purpose they transferred here. So those are the 3 positions where I think we could see some parity, if you will, some guys leaving. Last year we saw, I think it was 5 guys, maybe 6, transfer in and then transfer out. I think it'll probably be a fairly I would say 6 to 10 would be a fair number, because obviously the more people that leave, the more people that Coach Prime could bring in, which I'm going to be talking about next. Because now that I talked about who's going out, I got to talk about what positions will be coming in for Colorado next season, because obviously they do have some holes and they do need to figure a couple things out. But first, a word from our sponsors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. We're literally like 20-ish subscribers away from 5,000 on YouTube. Let's get there. I want to see those 5-star ratings keep flooding. You guys are the best. I appreciate all the support you guys give me. Now we're talking about who could be coming in. What positions do they need? Because I talked about who could be going out, what positions are just kind of full, or maybe there's just not a role for someone. Wide receiver, they brought in a lot of talent. Are some of these older guys that thought they'd have a chance going to depart? Are the offensive line, they brought in a lot of talent to make up for last year? Are the guys like the holdovers, like a Tyler Brown or a David Connor, are they going to want to stick around and just be a reserve? And then the secondary, you got Shiloh Sanders, you got Travis Hunter, that already claims 2 spots. There's a lot of talent out there. Maybe some guys that were brought in last year got surpassed on the depth chart already. Obviously, there's all of spring ball to work things out, but sometimes you have to make a business decision and kind of forecast what you see coming. So now that we talked about who's going out, who's coming in, I'm looking at positions and I'm like, okay, there's a couple that stand out to me the most, where it's like they could use some more. Realistically, and I've talked about this before, linebacker. So I look at the linebacker spot and I'm like, okay, Levante Bentley did solid. I would say he's one of the more improved guys because he started off as a starter. Clemson transfer comes in, starts right away, loses a starting spot to Juwan Mitchell, who was on the team for like a week and a half. And then he eventually worked his way back into the starting spot, which is great. You have Brennan Gant, who we barely saw, and Demoy Kennedy, who we barely saw. Those guys, I say those two both have potential. Brennan Gant is an interesting kind of hybrid safety linebacker type of guy. And then Demoy Kennedy, he played some running back at Alabama. He's very athletic. He's very fast. And he was someone who was like, Demoy Kennedy's going to have a role. And then the season comes around, it's like Demoy Kennedy did not have a role. Now, injuries and other things played a factor, but it is what it is. And then they bring in a guy like Jalen Wester from FAU. I think he was graded as one of the best run defenders, linebackers in the country. But does he have the size to be an every down linebacker? He's 6 foot, listed at like 220, I believe it is. He's just small, and that's okay. Size doesn't matter. Height doesn't matter. Height doesn't measure heart is what I was trying to say. Tongue twister there. But Jalen Wester, is he a guy that they can kind of throw out there consistently, or are they going to have to rotate some guys? And then they have some freshmen. They brought in Kieran Garcia, and then some redshirt freshmen, Victory Johnson, and Kofi Taylor Barrocks. I look at this group, this inside linebacker group, and I'm like, I think they could use a couple more. I think they need some bigger bodies, some experience. Now, obviously, the hard part about the spring window is you're not just going to go out and be like, okay, it's not like the winter window where it's like you got guys transferring all over. You got Alabama transfers leaving because they want NIL money, or you got Alabama transfers leaving because Nick Saban retires. A lot of these guys that are transferring in the spring portal, they did not win their starting job, or they just did not like where they ended up. But for the most part, a lot of them didn't win their starting job. And so you are taking a chance on the portal that while it didn't work out at school A, it could work out here. And I'm not shying away and saying that Colorado shouldn't go get these guys, because I think they need some depth. But I just want people to understand that you're probably not going to go into the spring portal for the most part. I think it's possible to go get some really talented players. but it's just not likely to go in there and bring back a huge like number one type of transfer guy. So then I look at another position going on the offensive side of the ball that needs some help as well. And I'm looking very specifically at this running back spot. They are as thin as it gets. They have 4 scholarship running backs on the roster. Compared to quarterbacks, they have 4, which I mean, quarterbacks, that's fine because obviously not all are going to play. Running backs, you rotate running backs quite a bit. Wide receivers, they have 11. Offensive linemen, they have 12. They have 8 safeties, 8 corners, 7 inside linebackers, 9 edge rushers. And it's like running backs, they have 4. And Dylan Edwards, who I expect to be probably not the lead back, but a very key contributor, he's small. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's small, he's fast, probably the fastest guy on the team. But is he durable enough to be out there all season? Alton McCaskill, he's already had injuries. You don't want to take a risk or take a chance that, you know what, just because he's had all this time to heal and get right, injuries can happen. It's a freak thing. Sometimes people get injured getting in the shower, or sometimes people get injured bowling. It's just one of those things where you can never forecast who's going to get injured when. And I think going out and getting a running back would be very beneficial. Samuel Wilkerson, same thing. He's a little thicker than the other guys, but smaller on the smaller side of things. And then you got Michael Welch, true freshman. Do you want to rely on him to kind of be a key player right away when you never know? You just never know. So I think they need to go out and get another running back just to add some depth. And obviously it would help to add another dynamic to this offense, but depth is more important to me. And then lastly, and this is just nitpicking, kind of trying to make the rich get richer. But I look at the interior defensive line. They have Torian Carter, Chidozie Nwankwo, Anquin Barnes, Amari McNeil, Quincy Wiggins are all guys that are listed as defense linemen in the interior, somewhere around there. It depends where a lot of these guys are going to play. Go get another defense lineman. Go get some more big bodies. I don't think you could ever have enough, and I feel like Colorado ran into a kind of depth problem last year. So go get another one. They don't have to be like a starting caliber guy, but a guy that could give you some snaps, take some edge off of the other guys. So those are the 3 positions where it's like I think they could bolster some more. But even though I just said they could use more defense linemen, I think that unit has some very, very large potential next season. But first, a word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Say goodbye to your busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. I would go with a team like UConn. They have the size. They have the shooting. I would not go with a team like Purdue. I would pick them to be upset eventually. I feel like they kind of always stumble in March. So to get in on the action, just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut the nets down. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon to get in on that action. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. Like I say, we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. You guys don't want to miss it. Well, let's get to 5,000 subscribers. Let's keep that number going up and up and up. I appreciate all the support that you guys give. I also want you guys to check out, if you're into March Madness, mark your calendars for the Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown show Monday, March 18th at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Experts Andy Patton and Isaac Schad will break down their brackets and discuss everything that you need to know to fill out a winning bracket and prepare for this year's NCAA tournament. Find the Locked On Bracket Breakdown on Monday, March 18th on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast or wherever you get your podcast. Okay, this defensive line, I talked about it a little bit. Did I say that they could go out and get some more depth? Yes, but like I said, that's the rich getting richer. I think this unit, compared to last year's, is in much better shape. They're bigger. Like Torian Carter is a big fella. He is listed at, drum roll please, 6'3", 600 pounds, 6'3", 303 pounds. You also have a guy like Anquin Barnes, who is listed at about 6'4". I think he's listed at 330 or 320. He's up there as well, 315-ish. So 6'3", or 6'5", 315. So you got those two. You got Chidozie Nwankwo, undersized, but a proven commodity. And then you got a guy like Quincy Wiggins from LSU who didn't play a lot, but he has that size, highly ranked transfer, highly ranked recruit. And I say all the time not to get caught up with where they come from. Same thing with Barnes. They come from power schools. These guys, there's a reason they transferred. They did not get the playing time that they would have liked. You also have Amari McNeil, who I felt like was a really good player last season for Colorado, even though the defense line struggled. I feel like he got some quality snaps. So you got Quincy Wiggins, you got Amari McNeil, you got Anquin Barnes, you got Torian Carter, you got Shane Cokes, whatever he plays. BJ Green is a guy who could come in and provide some depth. Or provide some impact, not depth. BJ Green's going to be one of their best players. Chaz Wallace is going to provide some depth. This Colorado defensive line, I think, has a chance to be one of the better units in the Big 12. And this is mostly based off of the fact that they have experience. They have a mixture of experience and depth, which is what they were lacking last year. Last year, they had neither. Now they have experience and depth. They also have guys with potential. Last year, I don't think they had a lot of guys with potential. I think it was just bodies that could plug and play, if you will. But they didn't have guys that were disruptive. Now they have guys where it's like maybe Quincy Wiggins doesn't start right away, but maybe he develops somewhere down the line and kind of carves out a role for himself. Maybe a guy like Anquin Barnes, who's ginormous, 6'5", probably 315, 320 pounds. Maybe he comes in and is just a mammoth of a defense lineman, and him and Torian Carter form one of the best defensive fronts in the country. Maybe they're just locking down the front. I think with their combination of size, experience, speed, and the hunger that this overall group has, because we see it a lot in those well-off media videos. The defensive line, I think a lot of people are kind of excited about the offense line, and how could you not be? They're a much improved group. The defense line has punked them a couple times. I think Deion Sanders Jr., Bucky, posted some highlights one day and said that he didn't want to post all of them because the defense line won. And so what I'm hearing is this unit is tenacious. They're chippy. They're going to let you know. They're confident. And I think that's what Colorado needs. So I think they have the potential to be one of the better units in the Big 12. And if they are able to do that, if they are able to be one of the better units in the Big 12, look out, because the Big 12 is predicated on running the ball. If Colorado could get physical, slow down the run, and get to the quarterback, it's going to create more mistakes for the quarterbacks, and it's going to create more opportunities for Shiloh, Travis, Cormani, whoever's in the secondary, to get some interceptions. It's also going to make life easier on the offense because they may not have to score every single drive. So look out for this defense line. You guys comment below. Also, Samuel O. He's going to be out there rushing the passer. BJ Green, phenomenal pass rusher. Phenomenal. Those two rushing the passer, I think, could form one of the best duos in the conference. I know a lot of people are saying that BJ Green doesn't have a motor, and I do think that there was some effort level issues at Arizona State, but I don't think there's going to be effort level issues when you play for Deion Sanders. I think that's pretty hard to, I wouldn't say it's hard to do, but it's hard to maintain because he will get on you, and Deion Sanders is a little scary when he gets mad. You can tell. I would not want to be on his bad side. I can tell you that. You guys comment below which defense lineman you think will have the biggest impact, new or old player. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me. And like I say, I will see you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday. And thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs.